Hello, and welcome to A Drink with the Past featuring your host,
Martin.
Jose, and our
And
special guest.
our special guest is Mr. Luciano Savala. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
On today's episode, we are going to dive into all things presidential, ranging from best to worst presidents and how you can even run to be president in general. So take things with a grain of salt when it comes to our opinions. Our drinks for this episode is Jack and Coke in a can, courtesy of Jack Daniels. And what about you? What are you drinking today?
I don't know. I'm almost done.
No scotch.
No, I'm not gonna go that hard. I'd say, guys, let's say it's on the Long Island iced tea side.
All right,
Okay.
sounds good. So join us as we take a drink with the past.
Cheers. All right, so for today's episode, this is a special weekend for everyone in the country. It is President's Day, a day that falls on every third Monday of February, and it basically commemorates presidents throughout the entire U.S. history. But actually, there's something much more deeper than just President's Day.
How can it go any deeper?
Isn't that right, Savala?
Oh man, you can go a lot deeper with these presidents, man.
So I take it to understand that before it was declared President's Day, it was actually to commemorate George Washington's birthday, whose birthday was also this month.
Isn't that tomorrow?
Interesting.
Interesting. I thought you knew that.
No, yeah, I just learned something new, man.
I thought you knew that was George Washington's birthday.
Hey, man, it's hard for me to keep track of all the presidents and birthdays.
That's what I say.
Okay, so President's Day is a federal holiday celebrated on the third Monday in February. Originally established in 1885 in recognition of President George Washington, the holiday became popularly known as President's Day after it was moved as part of 1971's Uniform Monday Holiday Act, an attempt to create more three-day weekends for the nation's workers. While several states still have individual holidays honoring the birthdays of Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and other figures, President's Day is now probably viewed as a day to celebrate all U.S. presidents, past and present.
Is that why this school district celebrates it the entire week and not just one day?
Well, some do the week, but for instance, I have friends in other districts who they only do one day.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same for my sister and my uncle. They work in San Bernardino Unified, and they only get the day off.
Same. I only get tomorrow off, and then I have to go back to business as usual.
Yeah, but they get out a week earlier.
But they have 2 weeks of spring break.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, give me President's Week over 2 weeks spring break anytime.
Exactly.
I see. So, the stories of President's Day is actually going to begin in 1800. So, following the death of George Washington in 1799, his February 22nd birthday became a perennial day of remembrance. So, basically, right after George Washington's death, the newly formed nation ended up deciding to commemorate his birthday as like sort of like a remembrance
Okay.
for him.
Interesting.
And of course, he was actually one of the most venerated figures in American history. Like in 1832, the centennial of his birth and the construction of the Washington Monument in 1848 were actually one of the most national celebrations in the country.
All right.
Nice.
So it wasn't until the 1870s actually when when his birthday actually became a federal holiday. And Senator Stephen Wallace Dorsey of Arkansas, he was the first to propose the measure, and by 1879, President Rutherford Hayes signed it into law. So it was known as Washington's birthday at first.
Interesting.
Huh.
But it was only applied to D.C. only. That was the thing about this holiday. It was only applied to Washington D.C. that they would be the only ones to celebrate it. But in 1885, when Grover Cleveland was president, it basically expanded through the whole country. And at the time, Washington's birthday joined four other nationally recognized federal bank holidays: Christmas, New Year's, Fourth of July, and Thanksgiving. And it was actually the first to celebrate the life of an individual American, with the other one being Martin Luther King.
Two pres. Uh-huh.
So only two people in U.S. history had a holiday dedicated specifically to them: George Washington and Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, oh, okay.
But then eventually, I guess going forward, it was going to include Abraham Lincoln when the holiday became known as the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. So not only were they going to celebrate Washington's birthday, but they also were going to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's birthday, whose birthday fell on February 12th.
Oh.
So
okay.
both presidents had a birthday in February.
Okay.
It's a good month.
A good month indeed.
That's a good month.
So,
Okay. So, what did you want to ask?
so basically, how does one become a president, Mr. Savala? And I know, like President's Day, we're going to be talking about all things presidents. So basically, what is the point of the presidency, Mr. Savala?
The point of the presidency. That's a good question. I mean, the president is, considered the most powerful man in the world. So that's pretty big there. The executive chief. What's the requirement again, Martin? You gotta be what was it again? 35? At least 35. Is that what we talked about?
Mm-hmm.
That's young, man. So
Has there been
it's a
anyone
lot of
that young running?
responsibility for sure.
And there was someone pretty young that ran, right?
Yeah, we had what? Kennedy? JFK, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Will always go down in history as the youngest American to run for president.
JFK, then Obama. Yeah. Obama was a young one too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's going to be a day where we're going to see somebody. I think we're going to see somebody in those 30s for sure.
In the near future.
At the rate we're going and the way that I feel people want someone more in touch with what's going on with the country, I think we're going to see somebody pretty young eventually. It's going to take time, though. It's going to take time.
I also believe that too.
Yeah.
In any case, so I mean, yeah. So basically, like, of course, the requirements to run, they have to be a natural born citizen, or they have to take up residency in the U.S. for about 7 years, I think.
I believe it was 7.
So what does that mean, like residency in the U.S.?
Just like a regular U.S. resident can run at that point if they've been here for 7 years?
I mean, because you have the natural born citizens, right? Obviously, you have people that were
Okay, say
born
that you're not,
in
and
this
you wanna
country.
run.
You were born in this country, so I mean, really, it's like, well, if someone were to become a naturalized citizen, then would they have to have been like a citizen for like 7 years before they are able to run for president of the United States?
I would assume I would think longer than that.
Mm.
Well,
I used to think like you weren't supposed to have committed anything. You wouldn't be supposed to be in jail at any point during your time running in president. I mean, obviously now you could say since Trump was now considered a felon, I guess that rule does not
check
apply
it out
anymore.
here. Let's see. You got to be natural born citizen of the U.S. be at least 35, and been a resident for 14 years.
Well, 14 years.
14.
A resident for 14 years.
14 years.
Okay.
Let's see here. Now, note, natural-born citizen of the United States.
And that also includes basis too, right?
Yeah. So, natural-born citizen. Interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
So, I mean, really, President's Day celebrations back then when President's Day was introduced, it was kind of like considered like being treated like Independence Day, like 4th of July.
Yeah.
So, President's Day was traditionally viewed as a time of patriotic celebration and remembrance. In its original incarnation as Washington's birthday, the holiday gained special meaning during the difficulties of the Great Depression, when portraits of George Washington often graced the front pages of newspapers and magazines every February 22nd.
Okay.
So yeah, basically in modern form, President's Day is used by many patriotic and historical groups as a date for staging celebrations, reenactments, and other events. And a number of states also require that their public schools spend the days leading up to President's Day teaching students about the accomplishments of the presidents. What do you think about that one?
You know what's interesting when you say that, Martin? I went to a Christian private school for my first 7 years of education, and we would do that. Leading up to President's Day, because we didn't have the week, we would do a lot of study and focus on some of those greatest presidents. So I definitely can imagine that. Now, note that I haven't seen or heard of anything like that in the last 20 years. But in that time period when I was a youngster, yeah, we did that.
I didn't know that about. I didn't know that's what you did.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that about me?
You never did that with us.
Well, no, I'm not allowed to.
Like, you never did that with us.
I think we just grazed through it,
because
honestly.
it's a whole different education system. You gotta take note of the differences between a private Christian institution and our public institutions, which we could do a podcast about that someday.
Yeah, that could be for another time. That could be for another time, people.
And another place. Another world.
So, you know what was interesting was that in 1932, the date was actually used to reinstate the Purple Heart.
The Purple Heart.
Really?
Yeah, the Purple Heart.
Nice.
You
Like
know
an
what?
actual Purple Heart?
No.
An actual Purple Heart. Okay.
The Purple Heart is a military decoration that was actually originally created by George Washington. So, like, I know I mentioned it in the Veterans Day podcast about the Purple Heart, but what most people don't know was that it was actually created by George Washington
Okay.
to honor soldiers killed or wounded while serving in the armed forces.
Wasn't that when we were talking about World War One though?
Veterans Day was World War One was the reason why Veterans Day happened.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, for you people that didn't know, yeah, the purple George Washington was the one that created the Purple Heart for the military.
Okay.
That's it, man. It's a good fact.
Thank you.
Good research. Good research.
All thanks to history.com.
Okay, so
Okay, so here's what we want to get to the nitty gritty part, Savala. So in honor of President's Day,
All right.
in your opinion, who do you believe were the best and worst presidents in our nation's history?
You want to start with the best or the worst?
whichever one you want to start with. You could even go start with the worst.
Why don't we do that? Let's start with the horrible, and then we can go with the best.
All right, how about it? Buckle up.
So how far back do you want to go, though?
Tell
I mean,
George
no,
Washington.
let me start with my list. Let me
Okay.
say this. I went, God, I was all over the place, man. The worst, and, oh, man, it's going to be controversial, but I'll tell you flat out.
Go ahead. That's what this podcast is all about.
And not in any kind of order of how bad they were.
All right.
Just, they're here. Jimmy Carter was pretty bad.
Got
Carter,
it.
great guy.
And he passed away, what, this year?
Sorry, no disrespect. I mean, rest in peace. Pour one out for Jimmy Carter. But great guy. The kind of person you'd want to aspire to be, but just not a very good president.
What was he doing?
You want to know what was bad about him?
Uh-huh.
Horrible economy. The 70s, we had gas shortages. We had pretty much an economy that was ripe with inflation.
Okay.
And people looked to him for a solution. And instead, he talked about the nation buckling down and conserving, which nobody wants to hear.
Okay.
I mean, when you can only get a gallon of gas every, 3 days? No one's going to like that.
Okay.
I think not, yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to like that. Yeah.
What do you think about his handling of Iran?
Weak.
Mm.
Weak foreign policy. He kind of bowed down to a lot of different nations, including Iran. You know, I don't think he should have bombed them to oblivion, but he could have taken a stronger stance.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else?
Oh my God, that's Carter. Again, great guy. In fact, Carter is an example how you can be a horrible president, but do more outside the presidency and be better.
Because his occupation was a farmer, right? Before he became president.
Yeah, but he was also he was in the Naval Academy and he was in the nuclear submarine program for many years. So he's a smart guy, man. But he just was not very good in Washington. No, don't forget, the best aren't always the smartest aren't always the best presidents.
Make note, people.
No, it's not. I mean, definitely. You don't have to be Ivy League to be a president and be good.
True.
Next on my list, let's leave Jimmy Carter alone now.
Who can top Jimmy Carter at that point?
Andrew Johnson. Horrible. Horrible president.
Andrew Johnson. I knew you were going to mention Andrew Johnson.
I mean, come on. Horrible. He ruined Reconstruction. He reversed a lot of Lincoln's plans for the country after the Civil War. And, oh man, just a horrible person. Not a good person.
Okay.
And wasn't he a Democrat while Lincoln was a Republican?
Yeah, and Johnson was only brought aboard because he was one Southerner. He was the only Southerner who voted against splitting the Union. So that's why Lincoln kept him on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? So that's Andrew Johnson.
Yeah, I think that's enough with Andrew Johnson. I mean, horrible.
Just a summary. That's the summary, basically.
Oh man, terrible.
Reconstruction.
Reconstruction. That's all you got to know. The
Oh, he
Reconstruction
ruined
era.
Reconstruction. Martin, he ruined Reconstruction. There was so much more, but he just ruined it. Yeah, he ruined it. All right, next. Are you ready for next?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes. I wonder if the people.
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. Oh, come on.
Horrible.
The only thing I remember about Lyndon Johnson, well, maybe this isn't even about it, but the whole Johnson thing with like the baby shampoo. That's the only reason I know about his name is just that. But I know that's probably not related to that whatsoever.
Yeah, horrible. Not well. You know what? I mean, he Vietnam. That's all you gotta say.
Okay.
Vietnam. And he just didn't tell the truth about the realities of winning that war, and he pretty much lied to the American people about the progress of the war. So, not a good person either. There's a lot of stuff about him, and in retrospect, that not good.
Well, what about the way he gets his ways with people in Washington?
Well, there's nothing wrong with
What, the Johnson treatment?
Oh, I remember what you were talking about, his staring, the way he stares at people.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you like skinny dipping in a hot tub, yeah, but that's what he would do to people. He would put them in weird locations, and he would negotiate, so to speak, and get his way. It worked, but.
Okay.
I mean, Martin, let me ask you, would you really want to go in a hot tub with Lyndon Johnson?
Hell to the no.
I mean, it's like him inviting all three of us. Okay, guys, I gotta talk to you. The meeting place, we're thinking, okay, restaurant, office. No, it's gonna be in a hot tub. Yeah, all right.
At this point, I'll be like, Mr. President, I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline.
Just tell me what you want, but
Yeah.
I will not be going to that meeting location whatsoever.
Yeah. That's. There's a lot more, guys. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but a lot of people think he has something to do with JFK's assassination, but that's
Right.
not proven.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Like there's some talk about that too.
All right, what's next on the list?
Oh, so so is that all the worst presidents you have?
I thought you wanted 5.
Oh, keep going. You mentioned 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you told me
who's
you wanted 5.
so who's the next one?
Okay, here we go. All right, Barack Obama. Horrible.
Is this going into like the Obamacare situation?
Horrible situation. Racial division, guys. He had a chance to unite this country racially. Instead, he took a position that only divided the country further apart. Not to mention big government. Government extended extensively under Obama. Big disappointment. So much potential, just never met.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Obama. Not good. Not good. He's great, very charismatic speaker. He gets a lot because of his charisma, but yeah.
All
Right.
You want next?
Yep. Last
right.
one.
Who's number 5?
I want you two guys to guess who's going to be next on my list.
Who?
Andrew Johnson? No, Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Jackson.
No.
Maybe Kennedy.
No. It's someone very recent.
Oh.
No. Bush. George W. Bush.
He was pretty bad, but there's someone worse.
His father, George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, he wasn't that bad.
Bill Clinton.
Besides the Lewinsky issue, he wasn't that bad. He was actually pretty good. He was the last of the moderate Democratic Party presidents.
Wait,
so
who?
it's a Republican then.
Is it a Republican or a
Clinton.
Democrat?
No, Clinton was the last moderate Democratic president. Yeah.
Oh, really?
'Cause he was a moderate now.
Okay.
So, give us a hint. Is he Republican?
He's Democrat, unfortunately.
He's
An
unfortunate Democrat.
What time period?
Let me just say this. For the last 2 years, he probably didn't even realize he was president half the time.
Oh,
Woodrow Wilson?
No,
That's a good guess, though. That's not bad. That's pretty good. That is pretty good, though.
I did a report on Woodrow Wilson, so that was back in
No, you're
elementary
right.
school.
No, I mean, I could have chosen Wilson because of the stroke. He had the stroke, and his wife was pretty much.
You're talking
No.
about Biden, right?
Yep. Biden, guys, I mean, look, he didn't know where he was half the time. He was a president in absentia. He obviously was in stages of dementia. It's arguable about who was really running the country.
I can see that. Especially
I mean,
since
he
now he
just
didn't
didn't
want to
know
run
what was
again.
Didn't know what was going on. And you need someone who at least knows what's going on.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, his
It's gonna be
political. He had a long political career, but honestly, it was like at this point, it was like, okay, maybe you should just take us, step aside.
Kick the bucket again.
Well, you can be old, but if you're
You could be old.
mentally you can't handle it, then you can't handle it. It's a tough position.
Well, yeah,
So-
because like he's been what, like a senator for like
Yeah.
majority of his adult life, like mid-adult life.
What's that like? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's pretty much a lifelong politician.
All right, so now we got through the worst. Now you want to go through the best, the 5 best presidents in your opinion?
Yeah, let's go to the best. Let's put the awful past of mediocrity behind us. Let's look at some good ones.
All right, number one.
All right, number 1, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yes, good old Ike. Good old Ike.
Yeah.
Okay.
What decade, guys? Let me ask you, what
Uh,
decade was Eisenhower?
Eisenhower feels like
Yep.
60s? 60, like 50 to
Close.
60?
1950s.
The 50s. He was president of the 50s.
Yeah, he was a good one. Federal Highway Act, ended the Korean War. He was a good one.
Temporarily, didn't technically end it.
Well,
Put it.
Korea's got problems going on right now, guys. I think they might have a communist insurgency going on in the South. But, that's another episode.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
But Eisenhower, yeah, I would have to agree. Like, he was the supreme commander of the Allied forces in World War II. Who planned the famous
D-Day.
D-Day Normandy landings?
Yeah, he was a good one. He was really a good one. He was a hands-off kind of president, but he had so many good people around him, it worked. Yeah.
Okay.
Eisenhower, good choice.
Ike.
All right, number 2.
He just wants to get it
Number
over.
2, not in ascending order,
Okay.
Ronald Reagan.
All right, Ronald Reagan.
What more can be said? Ronald Reagan.
Despite the fact that people think that he's just a actor that came straight from Hollywood to eventually get into politics.
Yeah. That's all you need sometimes, though, man. I mean,
Well, look at
again, the
Schwarzenegger.
smartest guy isn't the greatest president all the time.
All right.
So, why do you think he was the best? Like in regards to like his like policies.
Well, first off, let's go to how he smoked Carter in the election. Guys, you'll never.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
Jimmy Carter stood
just
no
a
chance.
little youngster, but we're never going to see a victory like Reagan had over Carter.
Yeah.
You guys can look it up real quick at the electoral map in the Reagan Carter.
Oh
election.
yeah,
We'll
Reagan
never
got.
see it again.
Yeah, like it was like a landslide victory for Reagan.
I guess
No,
you could
just
say the
say
same thing
call
right
it
now,
what it
too,
is,
with
Martin.
this
He
one.
smoked Carter.
No, like Reagan got like a lot. Like almost all the states basically had the electoral college votes for Reagan. Like all the states, like the whole country.
Okay. I guess if you put it that way, I can see
Smoked.
it.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah.
He smoked them.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as, well, he was good with Soviet-U.S. relations. He dealt with Gorbachev. He was tough on the Soviets, and at the same time, he made a great friend in Gorbachev, and that led to Glasnost and Perestroika and the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Horrible, though, when he
There's always a bad.
dealt with the homeless population. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Not
What
good.
was it that bad in the 80s?
What do you mean?
The homeless problem?
No, well, this what happened was he cut funding to mental institutions, basically letting a lot of these guys out. And the bottom line is, rough numbers are 6 out of 10 people that are homeless could very well be
From a mental institution.
you know, a mental institution. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So big mistake there, but he was.
But other than that, he
overall-
was a great guy.
Oh, great president, otherwise.
Other than that, he was a great president.
Oh, great
Besides
president.
the fact that he did a horrible job with helping mentally impaired people.
Well, people kind of liked it though, because if you try to reverse that now, they'll say it's inhumane to put people in a mental institution. Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, especially in today's world.
yeah. They'd rather have people on the streets and have them in a place where they're taken care of.
And that's why this state is
But I mean, I guess that's like before. I don't know if lobotomy is considered a standard practice now, but maybe I don't know if it was more of a standard back when Reagan was around at that point. And that's why he wanted to put a pin on that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there were abuses for sure in these mental institutions. There were. I think they should have reformed them instead of shutting them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. So good old Reagan. What's next?
Oh man, Reagan. That was a good one.
So I was like 1, 2.
Yeah, that's two.
All right. What's
Good
the
counting.
third
Good
one?
counting.
Third one. Are you ready?
Let's have it.
Oh, it's just too easy. It's almost, I feel bad putting him on the list because it's so straightforward. Lincoln. How can you deny Lincoln?
Lincoln. Good old
You can't deny
Honest
Lincoln.
Abe. Good old Honest Abe.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Emancipation, Civil War, Reconstruction. Had some good plans,
Mm-hmm.
but the assassination kind of took care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Did you know he wrestled? Or he was a good boxer?
Yeah. Yeah, great wrestler.
And the tallest president in U.S. history.
Yeah.
Was that from that one photo you showed me once where he had like boxing gloves on? In one of the old like pictures of Abe. That's funny.
Yeah, and he was also not an attractive president, but nevertheless, he was a great president. Nevertheless,
Yeah.
Isn't he like one of the taller ones
Looks
too?
wise.
yeah, he was the tallest president. He was like, how tall was he? Like 6'1", 6'2"?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a lot for this country. He basically was like the emblem of the Republican Party.
For
Yeah,
sure.
he was a great commander in chief. He had to basically educate himself on being a general. He was basically a general.
But he had a problem with McClellan, right? What's his name?
Yeah.
William?
McClellan.
No kidding.
So but the thing is, like, he had to deal with like two fronts, with like McClellan failing in the Eastern Front where DC was for not doing his job, but like he had more faith in Grant.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Ulysses Grant,
Hmm.
future president.
He's like, then send him all the whiskey he wants.
If he could have
Never
seen it
worked.
now.
Wait, what?
If he only sees us now with this. That's funny.
Having Jack Daniels mixed with Coca-Cola, yeah.
You're
Wonder
like-
what Ulysses S. Grant would say about that.
Yeah.
He'd probably say, yeah, why not?
Depressing. You don't drink real whiskey by itself.
Well, you know,
All right, so that was 3.
yeah. You want 4?
Number
Yeah.
4.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Sorry.
JFK.
Yes, he has to be on that list. John F.
Cuban
Kennedy.
Missile Crisis. The world could have been, we could have been in a nuclear war. He handled it great. And he brought a lot of young Americans back into being interested in the presidency.
Okay.
Yeah, great president.
John F. Kennedy, and the youngest person to have run for president in this country.
Yeah.
What is that, like 38? I mean,
He was like in his late 30s, I think.
Yeah.
And he did better than because of television. His
PBS.
presidential debate was the first one to be televised nationwide.
huh.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason why he beat Richard Nixon.
Oh, okay.
Like, in my opinion, that's the reason why a lot of historians say that that's the reason why John F. Kennedy was able to beat Richard Nixon, was because of the
He
introduction
beat him
of,
to the television.
basically because of televised debate. Because of the televised debate, like they saw, like, John F. Kennedy had, they put up makeup on him, right? He looked young, but Richard Nixon, being an old, basically being like an old guy.
Okay.
Well, Nixon didn't shave on that day. So he had like a 5 o'clock shadow going on.
Ooh.
And he wore a suit that was all,
That's
it was
yikes.
black and white TV. So the suit he wore just washed him out.
Really? I did not know that part, that he
Yeah.
didn't shave.
All right.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta shave, man.
Interesting.
Interesting. So Cuban Missile Crisis, definitely, he averted the Cuban Missile Crisis, in which the world would have been brought to nuclear Armageddon.
So close.
Yeah.
Very, very close. Closer than people could imagine.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we have his, what is it, his nephew? Robert Kennedy Jr.? Robert Kennedy Jr., right? That's his nephew?
RFK, yeah.
Who's now in a good government position after a lengthy Senate hearing.
Yeah, did you guys watch any of that confirmation stuff, hearings?
I just watched clips of the confirmation, but I know with Robert Kennedy, like that, with the Kennedy, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, he called out Bernie Sanders. Basically Bernie Sanders called him out, and then the problem is RFK knows all about little Bernie's issues, and basically Sanders backed down.
All right.
Exactly. So that's 4. Want to hit us with the last one?
Well, okay, let me say this. I was really gonna say Washington, but that's a given in my mind. That's a given. So let's go Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, good old Teddy. Good old Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah,
Okay.
A real man of his time.
for sure.
Yeah. No, yeah, a real man of his time.
For sure. Yep, think about it. U.S. expansion, the Panama Canal, which we built, which we just happened to sponsor a bloodless coup for Panama to get out of the hands of Colombia. They have a lot to thank us for. Yep.
And again, the first president to travel abroad, right? While in office,
The first one you said?
like while in office. Wasn't he the first one?
No. Woodrow Wilson.
Oop.
To travel abroad?
Good old.
Was it when he went to?
I thought he visited the Panama Canal while in office.
He visited the canal.
No, well, that's what I meant. That he was the first one to leave the United States while in office.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh, he
good
went to the
one.
UK. So Wilson went to the UK, and France and Italy, to negotiate peace after
Yeah.
World War One.
Yeah, but I heard that Roosevelt was the first sitting president to have left the U.S. to travel abroad. Or was it? No, because Grant,
No, you're right.
yeah, Grant
Right.
traveled after he left the presidency. Because I know Grant went to Egypt when he finished his
Right.
term. But with Theodore Roosevelt, he was the first sitting president to have gone abroad while in office,
Just to Panama.
like to the Panama Canal, like to see the progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good call, Martin. Good call, because in the next election after Roosevelt would be, remember, he would only be he'd consider it 2 terms, even though it wasn't fully 2 terms. Then it would be Taft, then Wilson.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, Roosevelt was shot campaign that last time.
but also the good thing about Roosevelt, I don't know if you know this, Savala, but he was the one who prevented the North American buffalo from going extinct.
Did he really?
And he was the one that helped pass the law to create Yellowstone Park.
Yeah. Yeah, he loved it.
Like
He's an outdoorsman, man.
a very
He's an
outdoorsman. Have you ever visited? Would you want to visit his house? Because I know his house is a museum now.
That'd be great.
Like the inside of his house is so intense. It's just full of like game. Basically, like the game that he hunted, like from like
Venison.
leopard skin, like cat skin, heads of animals, ivory. Like yeah, like you could see firsthand how Teddy Roosevelt was such an outdoorsman. Like he was like the definition of what like a man really was supposed to be like back in his day.
Yeah, he wasn't even raised like that either, though. What's interesting is he made himself like that. He was not raised an outdoorsman, but he changed himself in many ways. Yep.
And just the way how he ran his house too. Like he always taught his sons how to be good gentlemen. Like even like when his daughters, with Roosevelt, like when his wife and his daughters, when they would walk into the room for dinner, they would always stand up. Like he and his sons, they always stood up for them when they came in.
Okay.
Yeah, gentlemen.
And of course, he made the rule like if you come after dinner, like if you were to come late for dinner, you would have to go wait until everyone was done, so that way you could eat your dinner alone.
Wow,
Okay.
that's pretty good.
So that was a good thing about Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was really like a man, especially during the Victorian era, basically, kind of like the late Victorian era.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a great president. He makes you wonder if he just would have really considered that first, not a true term, and had done his 2 straight. What would have been different?
And he's the reason why we have the DEA, right?
They should be the USDA and the Pure Food and Drug Act. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the reason why we make sure our food packing industries are sanitary.
Not me thinking this actually had the, the USDA mark. That's funny. Any other accomplishments you feel like you agree with Teddy?
even chorizo.
Okay.
And-
Watch what's in that stuff.
And despite the fact that he almost got assassinated, he got shot, but nevertheless he survived and still kept talking while in Kansas, right? Like
I
he was in,
believe so.
yeah, he was in Kansas where he got shot, but he kept talking. He was like, "Oh, gunshot wound? No worries. This is nothing. I'm just gonna keep talking."
Okay.
Yeah. Going back to that, the issue with pure food and all that. The issue was with the meatpacking industry in our country was so unsanitary that you could die with getting something bad in that meat.
Oh.
So that changed everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a good list.
Yeah, that was a good list.
Thank you for sharing your list.
That was a good list. Unfortunately, maybe, there was some that, unfortunately in our society today where it's like,
Can it be worse?
yeah, like, can it be like worse? Or like, even when you said like the worst, where your list of the worst president, where you have a specific man that, oh man, would bring up such an uproar.
Yeah. I mean, none of them are perfect. Even the list of good ones, they had their issues that you could say moral issues, but you take the good with the bad,
Agreed.
Yes, agree to that. I'm already on my third can.
Well, on that note, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your feedback from your piece on presidents and all things presidential. Thank you guys for listening and in on this podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and let us know what you liked about this episode and anything you want to touch a base.
Or even who you think was like the best or worst president in your opinion.
Yeah, so make sure you interact with us as much as you can. On our next episode, we are going to be talking about the March 1st movement of Korea, fighting through Japanese imperialism in Asia. So if you are excited for that, stay tuned for the next time we talk about this.
It's gonna be a goodie.
So thank you guys as we take a drink.
Oh wait.
Oh, sorry.
And also, we'd like to thank our special guest, Mr. Luciano Savala, who, if you guys do not know, he was actually my U.S. history teacher when I was in high school. So thank you so much, Mr. Savala, for doing this, for being part of this special episode discussing about President's Day and discussing about your list of presidents who you think were worst and best.
Definitely, it was great. It was great being on.
So until the next one,
Thank you as we take a drink with the past.
cheers.
Cheers.